Welcome to the Driving Forward podcast. It's Thursday, April 3rd. Whether you're joining us live or listening on one of our 18 platforms, including Reese Across America Radio, where we broadcast every Tuesday evening from 7 to 8 p.m. Central Time, we appreciate your support. Last week, we were at the Mid-America Truck Show. Matt's absolutely massive. I think I have the final numbers in, like 58,000 people. It was just epic. So for those that attended Manifest, it's like the driver Super Bowl of the industry, and Manifest times 10. 850 vendors, all kinds of different shows, different discussions. You can't even put your finger on what's happening at that event at any given moment. And next year, we're already strategizing about how to do things a lot more strategically, a lot more interesting, and what we can potentially do to engage everyone in the industry there. In a much larger booth, in a much bigger way. So I'm really excited about that. So coming up, I'll be leading a panel at Clio Connect. That's April 15th through 16th in Rosemont, Illinois. That's right by O'Hare. Attending the Clio Connect Logistics Summit provides a unique chance to look into industry trends, connect with supply chain and integration experts, and learn about critical product enhancements. The event's designed to offer valuable insights and build meaningful connections that can elevate your logistics operations to new heights. Following Clio Connect, I'll be at Broker Carrier Summit. There'll be a number of us from GLCS at Broker Carrier Summit. Actually, our guest today will be at Broker Carrier Summit as well. She'll be on a panel and doing a number of activities as far as I'm aware. Broker Carrier Summit is April 28th through May 2nd in Indianapolis. That's brokercarriersummit.com. Broker Carrier Summit, we're on a mission to transform the relationship between carriers and brokers. Say goodbye to distrust and hello to mutually beneficial partnerships. We believe the key to this transformation lies in fostering open communication, enhancing education, and meaningful connections. For the discounted ticket, use the code FREIGHT-MOVEMENT, FR8MVMT. Let's get ready for incredible conversations with a true force in the logistics world. Ooh, I guess that one I'm just reading. So today, I'm thrilled to welcome Christy Knichel, the unstoppable president and CEO of Knichel Logistics. I almost said it wrong, Christy. So, hailing from Pittsburgh and carrying the torch as a second generation logistics executive, Christy has taken her family business to new heights, turning it into a $100 million freight powerhouse. Since stepping up in 2007 and becoming the majority owner in 2009, Christy's vision and drive have earned her top honors like the Distinguished Woman in Logistics Award and the Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year. She's not just paving the way, she's laying foundation and inspiring women in an industry where that's no easy feat. We're going to jump into Christy's world, her victories, and the lessons she's learned along the way. Christy, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Nate. Appreciate it.
It's great to have you on. It's a long time coming, actually. So should have happened a long time ago, but you blink and so much time passes by.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We're all busy doing a lot of stuff, so.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, how have things been in your world?
Well, it's been a challenging, couple years, and I feel like, we've been turning this ship here, navigating through the market, and we have been coming out the other side this year. I'm happy to say. So it's been a lot of change. We've, moved into a new building the last quarter of last year. New space, which is awesome. I wanted to do something great for the employees too, and for the growth, but the building we're in has a daycare on site, has a cafeteria with all kinds of options, and a full gym with showers and sauna and walking trails outside. So trying to do what we can to appease the employees, but also a nice place for us to have some growth here. And so that's been a great thing here. And the other part too is just restructuring. We've gone through a massive restructure of the business, and now we're finally seeing the fruits of that labor after having to change a few times. You probably hear a lot of people talk about, in business, if you don't change and pivot when things are not going well, you might not survive. So we had to do that multiple times. And I would say, in my 28-year career, it hasn't been this challenging. So it's been fun, a lot of tears, effort, and but a lot of team effort.
28 years. We're at the same number. I don't know if we ever realized that, but same
Yeah.
number. And I agree. 28 years, and I was just talking with Joe Lynch actually today, and I'm evenly divided between an operator running companies, moving freight, and now the 14 years on the technology and advisory side. And I don't recall, I mean, well, I think a lot of people, this is obvious, but certainly we don't recall a downturn like this and the difficulties with any length of time like this or any sort of challenge like we've experienced. And that's, if you look at it between regulatory concerns, the challenges that we have with technology and the requirements that are needed to be able to stay competitive, and then just simply the market itself. It's created a unique field that we're all playing in. It doesn't matter if you're the company actually moving the freight or the company supporting those moving the freight. It's definitely a different world right now than it's ever been before.
Yeah, I agree. Obviously, being in the industry as long as you, I want to say there's a couple cycles we went through and nothing like this.
Right.
So obviously, you have to live and learn, right? Try to figure it out while you're going through it, and hope you come out positive on the other end.
Absolutely. And staying, I mean, the lesson out of this is stay lean always. So stay lean and stay fight ready at all times. So if you are not, then when you are surprised, bad things happen. So, always look at your processes, always look at your people, always look at the best way of possibly doing business. So when you come out of a good market and into a bad market, it doesn't matter if it's 6 months, 2 years, or an unknown period of time, you're going to be at your best fighting weight to handle that period of time. And if bad things still happen, you're at least in your best chance. So
Yeah.
so congratulations on your building. I've seen the pictures of it. I didn't realize how close you guys are to a couple of different areas. So I'm planning to get out to visit at some point. So
Um,
so that's definitely got to happen. Not to mention, it sounds like an amazing facility above all things. So congratulations on that. That's wonderful.
yeah. Thanks.
So, kicking this off, if you reflect back on your journey, and if I have read correct or listened to you, I'm not sure where I picked up on this, to be honest with you, but managing pizza shops, right?
Yep.
Okay. So, reflecting back on your journey from managing pizza shops from when you were basically a kid, right, to leading Knichel Logistics. I don't know why I'm hanging up on that because I've said your last name a million times, but for some reason I'm taking pause. So when I say it, but leading Knichel Logistics to where you are today, and what's been the most emotionally challenging moment in your career, and how did it shape you as a leader today?
Oh gosh, I feel like 28 years, there's probably been a couple in there. Yeah, I mean, going back to, running a pizza shop or a couple pizza shops and working 2, 3 jobs. I was 19, dropped out of college and started working for my dad. So I feel like I really had to learn a lot of things the hard way. I didn't really have like a great mentor to kind of show me the way. Obviously, my dad showed me some things, right? He was a sales guy, started the company. But, I worked in every role in the company. So it definitely taught me a lot about the business in different ways. And I would say probably the first most emotional like challenge I would have is really just dealing with the family dynamic. And the way that my dad was handling the family side of things. So, and not even just that, I guess just with my dad in particular, he put me in charge. And even though he put me in charge, I really wasn't in charge. I still had to
Yeah,
go through him to get
I know
things.
that story. Yeah.
Yeah, and then on top of it, it was just really finding ways to get things done that I know needed to get done by going through other men in the company, that my dad pretty much, had next to him or felt, like, for example, we had a COO at one point that, owned his own brokerage. He had a college education. And even though he was the COO, it was, like he was looking to him to kind of be the one to make those decisions. I mean, even at one point, I could never get a raise from my dad, but that guy got me a raise at one
Yeah.
point. But no, we had a lot of like knockdown, drag out fights about some things. And when I got the control of the company, I think one of the challenges was, my dad then wanted certain things and I told him no. And I was able to say no, and there was really nothing he could do other than threaten to sue me or, get into arguments. And, it was very emotional dealing with that. Or, my sister at one point, wasn't happy about things. She had left the company and wanted to come back to the company at one point, and I knew she wasn't a good fit for the company. So it was one of those things where, I had to tell my dad, like, she just can't come back. Like, she's not going to be a good fit. She didn't get along with some people. She sees it differently, but I know that would be, a challenge, and I'm going to have to deal with this if we brought her back. And my dad was always about family first and focus on the family. But if we did that, we might not have a business at the end of the day, based on some of the things that was happening, where my sister didn't work for the company anymore and she still had a car that the company paid for and still made some money. And I had to cut all that off too. So I was the one who had to say, hey, all this stuff has to stop and we need to run this like a true business. So, I would say those challenges in general were very tough for me, but I just continued to push forward knowing what this could be one day. And just having that strength to be able to do that. And I think part of that strength came from the fact my dad put me in the position to run the company, but yet didn't allow me to. So I had to like prove to him over and over and over again. And I would say now at this point, I feel like it took 20 years to prove to where, I could handle the things that he put in front of me. So
That's a long journey, and there's a lot of difficult things that you said there. So
yeah.
a lot of challenges and a lot of, family is hard. I have multiple businesses, and, family is hard to work with. So one of those businesses we have family in, and family is hard to work with.
I'm very transparent. My brother still works here with me, and he is part owner of the company, and we get along very well. I would say, he has his role that he does, and to be quite honest, he, leaves me to do the leadership stuff. He's not really involved in that. Sometimes I wish he would, and it might help him, but at the end of the day, this is what he wants to do, and I'm okay with that. And And I think now me and my sister have a better relationship. At this point, it took a long time, but again, I had to explain to her even, um, if we continue to work together, like we probably would not like each other and get along, and now
Sure.
we can have a relationship outside of work, instead of, having that relationship in the work environment that probably would be toxic at some point. So yeah, those are some of the hard lessons I think I learned, and really shaped me as a leader. I think, really digging in and having the grit and doing what's necessary to get to the next level, no matter how hard it was, even though, like I said, a conversation with my dad at one point, wanted to sue me. And that's tough, right? To have those conversations. We always brought it back and it was okay, right? But I knew when he came in and shut my door, I'm like, this is going to be a tough one.
Yeah. Yeah. That doesn't sound like fun, but that's the one thing about family in the business is that they're still family tomorrow, and
Yeah.
it can get really, really ugly, and sometimes it gets super ugly, unfortunately, but it can get pretty ugly before it has to get super ugly. So, we have lots of customers. I have lots of friends that have second and third generation businesses in the industry, and in some cases they're like, we've thrown down, so but we're still,
Yeah.
they don't end up in jail, but that's the only situation. If you were to have that happen with your business partner, that's going to be the end of the deal. But you do that with your brother, and not to say that's happened with you, but
Right.
I know people that have had that happen, and that's the nature of a family business. In some cases, it gets tough, and it's not the best um, not always the best situation to manage, because you can't get away from it. I mean, you
Right.
end up going to Thanksgiving dinner too, so
Right.
you have to learn how to shut that off. So fair enough. So moving past that one, so talking about a little how dynamic the industry is, and I like to call it adaptive leadership, but that adaptive leadership, and it's a crucial thing, I think, in the industry right now. We're moving so fast. I was just talking to someone else about the last 15 years and how this industry has changed so much in the last 15 years. How have you navigated the unpredictable challenges that this industry has thrown forward? I may have a follow up on that, but how
Yeah.
have you done that?
Yeah, I mean, I would say depending, I've had a lot of stuff thrown at me, and I think the thing is you got to dig in and figure it out and make some phone calls if you don't know what to do, and try to find people that can help you maybe through those challenges. And part of it too is also just stepping back and trying to look at the business. Um, how can we do this different, and sit down as a leadership team? And I'm just talking, like, say, even more recently, because the last couple years have really been challenging and hard to kind of navigate, especially when you're growing too. You're growing through a time where it's challenging, and then again you're getting to a level size of business where sometimes what you did to get to 50 million isn't going to get you to 100 million, and what
Right.
gets you to 100 million, is not going to get you to 150. And again, I have a lot of coaching, CEO mentorship programs and stuff. I think that helps in talking with people. I mean, to be quite honest, I don't have all the answers. And I think reaching out and talking to others about what they're doing and how they've gotten through this, especially if they're larger than me. And then even some of the same size or smaller companies always have something to add to it as well. So I do think reaching out and having those connections to talk through, because even this past change, it's kind of like what worked when we were smaller. We made some changes in the structure, and then we realized, like, it was really disconnecting people, and people were in silos and not thinking we could scale it the way that we had it. And then we went back to the way that we had it, and we'll find a way to scale that model. And part of that too is also talking to other similar competitors about what works for them in the business. And it's interesting because you find out a lot of these companies are going through the same thing you are, and they've done a lot of the same things you tried.
That's certainly so. Two comments on what you've said so far. So I just rewound and figure out. I remember where we first met now, which was actually in the networking group. We met with Nate Schutz's group through Ballas some time ago, and then we've networked, through Broker Carrier Summit, through Jeff Dickinson, whatnot. But so that's actually where we first met. Second one is the networking through other companies and through others who have done it before. Is absolutely the strongest way of moving forward, either through your local organizations, your national organizations, anyone who's done it before. They may not be right on the way that they're doing it before, but they have gone down this path, and they have some component of that you can take away, whether it's a nugget or it's the whole novel. There is something that you can usually take away from those discussions. We do that quite frequently, where we come in and study organizations and kind of help them path through that. So Joe McGee says Christy is a badass.
Nice. Hi, Joe.
So with all this with everything that you've navigated, and we've talked a little bit about the family sacrifices you've had to make, but outside of family sacrifices, what other personal sacrifices have you had to make to ensure that Knichel Logistics thrives?
Yeah, I mean, I would say I hate to say this, but my own personal health, right? Like, I'm not taking care of myself the way I should be. Not trying to find, I would say I'm not trying to find time for me to, whether it's going to the gym and doing those things that can get your mind clear. I just felt like I didn't have time. I just had to constantly be focused until we got through what we needed to get through. And then my plan is to kind of get on track with that. But that's probably the biggest thing, is not taking care of yourself. And then, you have a family and the business. But again, too, it is also sacrificing some stuff, with my husband or, my child, and not as much as, I'd like to. But at the end of the day, for example, I have a CEO mentoring thing coming up in July. Happens to be the same weekend my husband's birthday, and we were planning to go to this thing, this event, because he was on a show and he won the show, and we're going to this event. And my mentor's like really pushing hard for me to come out there, right? And now I'm at the point where I feel like I came out the other side, and now I need to put time in with my family. I wasn't able to take my son on like a vacation last year, but I mean, he's had his share of vacations over the years when he was younger, traveling quite a bit. But I do need to put time aside, I think, more specifically, not just for that, but myself in particular. I will say, even though I've been kind of bunkered down in my office working on things too, for a while too, it was hard to connect with some of the people here on the floor. Check in here and there, but not connecting like the way I wanted to. So now I'm getting caught up having one-on-one meetings with everyone again, and trying to really dig in and let them know, I'm here. I want to hear what you have to say, and how are things going, and what can we do to help you. And I think that's really important. And unfortunately got a little disconnected from that as well during these tough times.
No, I can relate to that. And I think a lot of people listening can relate to that. You get on mission and you get focused, and then you have to stay on mission, but there is only 24 hours a day.
Yep.
And some of those hours have to be sleep. So, and I think a lot of people can relate that are listening to that. And unfortunately, the health and otherwise typically have a tendency to be the first ones to go for many of us, especially in this industry, for whatever reason. That does seem to be the first thing that this industry seems to target. Although there's so many people that are championing a new movement in this industry there and I'm doing my best to align with them
Yeah.
because it just needs to be done. So I'm right in the front of that line as much as I can be. So to the best of my ability. So
Yeah.
But
it's something that's needed and it's important. And I'm glad that there is that movement going on too, because it will help encourage people to do that. And I mean, to be quite honest, the other part of it too, you let your health go right. And then you go to the doctor and then you find out your numbers aren't as great, but they were better like 7-8 months ago. So it's like, I need to do something.
Right. Absolutely. And then, eventually you get to a point where it's, you could have done something years ago and it would have been a lot easier. So, and as a CEO or a senior leader at an organization, you can make these choices. So really, in my opinion, and I've led significant companies, and what we do is fairly significant as well. You can make these choices. You have you have the option of doing A or B, and that extra hour a day to do A, or 30 minutes, the 30-minute walk. So that's
Yeah. Well, and Nate, you already heard me talk about, we got into a building with a full-blown gym and sauna here.
Right.
There's no excuse, right?
Right.
And I do give my people here an extra half an hour, lunch break for them to go use the gym if that's what they're doing. So
sounds like I need to work in your office.
Right.
So kind of rolling into this line of topic and reflecting on these sacrifices you made for your career, is there a moment or relationship that you kind of wish you'd handled differently? And how has that experience influenced your approach, or how has that experience influenced your approach to leadership in life?
I think I wouldn't say like a relationship. Well, I guess maybe again, I'm just going to use my father because he's the easiest one to use. But
Sure.
I just wish I would have stood up for myself earlier on, and fought back earlier on than when I did start to do that, because I do think that I might have been in a different spot a lot sooner. It wouldn't have been as challenging maybe. But again, I don't know if that would have changed or not. But I do think, the biggest thing that I speak about out there too is standing up for yourself and having a voice and being able to navigate that space, because once I was able to do that, it did change, I guess my confidence level and not being afraid to speak up for myself at other events, or even just being in an audience, like a rail meeting, for example. When they ask questions, I was always afraid to ask, and I pushed myself to ask questions, be the first one to raise my hand or sit in the front, because I wanted to have that voice be noticed. So I would probably say that would be it. I don't think there's anything else that I would have done different with any other relationship, because once I reached out to people, I continue to reach out to those people and ask questions, and I'm not afraid to do that. But I was, afraid and to do that early on with my dad.
Oh, great answer. So before we go on break, why don't we do a little, and you talk a lot on a variety of podcasts, so I didn't jump into this initially. I like to just jump right into questions. Many of the guests that we have on have done a number of different interviews, so I don't do too much into the background. But why don't you do a little introduction into Knichel Logistics on what you guys do, then we'll do a break and come back and pick up the rest of the episode.
Yeah, absolutely. So what my company does is we handle the shipping of intermodal shipments, which is moving on the railroad. I always forget, sometimes people don't know what intermodal means, but shipping the containers across the country. And that is our niche. That would be probably about 70% of our revenue here. But we also have a truck brokerage arm, an LTL arm, and we also have an agent network as well. And our agent network's not that big, but we have a handful of agents that do a significant amount of business, and we tend to bring some intermodal opportunities or intermodal type agents our way.
Great. All right. Well, if anyone has any questions for Christy, intermodal, brokerage, truckload, whatever that may be, queue them up. We'll be back in about a minute and a half. Looking forward to seeing any questions if they pop up. Otherwise, we'll continue the line of questioning. I'll talk to y'all soon. If your fleet's downtime looks like chaos, you're missing out on GLCS. In the fast-paced world of trucking and logistics, time is everything. Meet GLCS, your expert partner in managed IT services. We integrate seamlessly with your team, bringing seasoned IT professionals with deep transportation and logistics expertise. Imagine your software updates running smoothly, complex issues resolved quickly, and operations humming with efficiency. GLCS has your back. Our support doesn't just fix problems, it prevents them. With our industry connections and proactive approach, we keep your trucks rolling and your brokers working. Think of us as the added resource your company needs to unleash its full potential. Visit glcs.net today and keep your business driving forward. GLCS, where efficiency meets expertise. And we're back. All right. So kicking off the second half. Let's talk about people. This is a relationship industry. And I don't care how automated we get, which we can talk about automation eventually. I don't know if you guys have implemented anything like that yet. But first, let's get into people. Relationship business, always going to be, in my opinion, always going to be a relationship business. If you step deep down the automation path and forget about people, you're going to take step back eventually. This is my opinion. Once again, you're going to take some human factor back. So how do you inspire and retain talent in what I still believe is a competitive environment? And there may be people out there that are looking for roles, but there's got to be good people. So that's where I say it's a competitive environment. So how do you inspire and retain the talent? I know you have a really good crew that works at Knichel Logistics, and you've got a lot of long-term employees as well.
Yeah, we certainly do. I would say over this past 6 months in particular, that's changed a little bit with our growth, because some of the people that have been with us a long time probably would be here forever. But trying to get some people to the next level that maybe just can't get to that next level. So that's been a little challenge, I would say, at our size at this point. But I would say, it's really important to be interactive with your people. Like I mentioned earlier, having those one-on-one meetings, checking in with them, I think is extremely important, giving them the tools and resources that they need. Because sometimes you find out stuff that you're not going to find out at all unless you have these conversations with people. So that's important. My COO is also doing those meetings as well, asking different questions, just trying to be more engaged. And we want our people to also be involved in a lot of processes or things that we're talking about and what their thoughts are. They're doing the business day by day. And what, opinion they have definitely matters to us. I always tell people we might not always do what you want us to do, but we want to listen, and we'll definitely give feedback on that. So big proponent of that. I think also leadership coaching, the management staff that we have here, we have put them through leadership training with 2 different coaches. One was a male, one was a female, because I have a lot of female leaders too, and trying to change it up a little bit to see, how that might change how someone interacts or thinks and works in their space. So I think that's another part. Obviously, offering the building with the facilities that we have here, trying to have a good environment for them, a better space for them to be in, I think is extremely important. Obviously, recognition. We do two different things here. One is called a Nectar platform, where everyone gets points every month, from leadership all the way down, and we encourage people to give shout outs and whatnot to the people out there, and giving them points, and the points that they earn can get them, whether it's Knichel swag, gift cards, trips, all kinds of different things. And I think it's good that way because you engage other people in the company with each other that might not engage. We really, encourage people to meet other people that maybe don't work together. So I think that platform has worked great for that engagement. And then we do an employee, we just started it this year. We used to do employee of the month, and that just became cumbersome, but employee of the quarter, and, really putting a spotlight on that particular person and encouraging people, to vote, not vote, but, send in some examples and reasons why someone should win this award. But I think acknowledgement definitely goes a long way. And I really push the leadership team in particular, to acknowledge and engage with the people. I can tell you, just even from the talks I did yesterday, a couple of those people talked to HR, and they were just like, I'm so glad Christy talked to me, and gave me time to tell her in a safe space things that maybe they feel like they can't typically share. Maybe they have some issues and are upset, but I think I have a way of pulling stuff out of people to, tell them, like, this is a safe space. No one's going to know this information other than the leadership team. And I want to hear how you really feel. I don't want you to hold back, and I can't help you and make things better if we don't hear what's going on. And for some people, it might not mean that it's always true what they're saying, or, bits and pieces of it, but sometimes we start to get a theme out of, meeting with multiple people. So yeah, I would say those things are probably some of the main things. I mean, we do engagements outside of here, whether it's going to a Pirates game and stuff like that. And again, we try to make them vote, on it. And the potlucks have kind of died down a little bit. I don't know if it's because it's the younger generation.
Yeah.
I've kind of noticed that. But I just brought in a massage therapist this past week. Not everyone gets one, but she's my personal massage therapist. I love her, and she's just awesome. But whatever we can do, and asking them too, what are other things that you want us to engage in to help, in that type of fashion. But I think the biggest thing, though, that most people want is just to be heard.
Yeah. I mean, that's step one, right? Communication. I mean, I've interviewed thousands at this point, certainly over 1,400, but probably closer to 2,000 different organizations. And if I have to say, what's the first thing, if I ask this question, what's the first thing that you struggle with as an organization? Everyone says communication.
Yeah.
And the first point to resolve that is to communicate. And you don't need a platform to communicate. You can sit down and talk.
Yeah.
But most places, most organizations don't sit down and talk. They don't have one-on-ones. They don't have scheduled touch bases. They don't have the top tier talking to the front line, or not top tier, but the executives talking to the front line. So there is no open door policy, even though there's an open door policy. So it's not a true open door policy, and you have to be cautious about what you say, because the repercussions about what you say are negative. But also that line of communication, the next step of that, like you were saying, is to take action on what's being stated. So when we do, the way we start an engagement with one of our clients on the professional services side, many times it's through a company assessment or a business process assessment. We started off with a kickoff meeting with the stakeholders, typically executive team, and we understand all the pain points from the executive team. We then immediately go out to the front line and sit down with all of them and have discussions, and we compare notes. And 8 out of 10 times, those notes are entirely different. So the front line, we can connect dots, but they're not the same pain points. The executive team has a problem with this, and the front line has a problem with this, and they are not the same. And they wrap up into that executive team problem, but there's a root cause that can be resolved by doing exactly what you're doing, which was having those real discussions with the team and starting there. So, and as much as potlucks are great, if that's all you're having is a potluck or a pizza party, and you're not having the conversations to go with it, they're not so great. So
yeah, and you're right. I mean, communication has always been the biggest issue I would say people bring up here. And I'm a very not only transparent person, but we're very transparent to the whole company and the whole team about where we're at financially. Why are we doing things that we're doing? And I speak not just maybe a little bit lower than high level too. But even in my one-on-ones, I dig in a little bit more about like what we've gone through the past 2 years. So there's a little bit more understanding as to why some of these changes or things that are bothering them, they seem to understand more after having that one-on-one communication. So
I find being transparent with people about the company scenario, you don't have to be completely transparent, but you can at least be situationally transparent, and then letting them understand what does it take for us as an organization to be successful, and show that math to a particular point. So everyone, when they start to pull on a rope, are at least pulling in that general direction.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that level of transparency, everyone's doing what they think they should be doing, not what they actually should be doing. Once again, you're not communicating if you don't have that. If you're not communicating what direction you want them to pull, you're not going to get a cohesive unit. You're going to end up with a mess on your hands. So I respect that entirely. So absolutely. So another passion of yours, it's not a passion, it's a mission. Your organization has a substantial number of women that work in it, and you have taken on that as a champion in the industry. Really, you're one of the many champions in the industry. So as a mentor to women in logistics, can you share a story of a mentee that has profoundly impacted you? Let's just start there.
Yeah, you're right. It's a mission that I'm on because I feel like I was like the only woman back way in the day putting myself out there, and
you were.
Yeah, and now there's so many more now, which is awesome to see. But yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna name Nicole Glenn was one that she actually reached out to me and asked me how I grew my business. And the interesting thing is, even though she's in a totally different space, again, like in business, a lot of things are the same, right? And how you operate certain things or share things of how, salespeople are compensated and things like that. And I was able to learn a lot from her and talking to her. She actually started the Ladies Leadership Coalition podcast because of the mentorship that I had given her and wanted to be able to make an impact on other women as well because of how it impacted her. And it's just, I love like watching the fact that she has grown herself to where she did over the past couple years from when that had started. And now we're good friends. And now we actually are both on the board of a nonprofit charity called The Gift of Freedom, which also helps children that are victims of sex trafficking get the therapy that they need in life. So I think that's probably one of the most profound ones that I've had because it kind of turned into a friendship, a partnership, and now doing some greater good for the industry and the world.
It's funny how those things happen where you find a mission and you walk down that road and you find a few people and there's inspiration. Either you're inspired by that person, you inspire a person that is perpetual, it grows farther, and many things come of it. And it's amazing just how many stories in this industry I can look at, and how many people have those stories in this industry, and many times over, it's multiplied so many times. So many times.
And that's the power of reaching out, asking for help, just to get to know someone. You don't even have to ask for help, but just to get to know someone. And, you talked about, network and relationship industry. I mean, you're so right when you say that, because those relationships are everything. When someone needs something, I might be able to direct them somewhere, and vice versa. Like, it's just been amazing.
As I kind of crafted this one, and I'm still working on the full delivery of it, but this industry has a tendency of building character.
Yeah.
And it can build a massive amount of character. And you come into this industry, you entered this industry through family, but you stayed in this industry and you built a lot of character. And you have a massive following, and many people respect you. Many of us move into this industry for a wide variety of reasons, and we get to choose a path of build a career, build that character. And some people get a choice to become characters, and then very few people get to choose to become both. But this industry does have a substantial amount of ability to build a lot of character in it, and that's because of the wide variety of humanity that exists within it. And I kind of crafted that up I'm still going to put a pencil to it because I feel like there's something amazing in that statement. I just haven't got there yet. And we came to it, though, at Matt's, where you're sitting there and you're watching the whole industry walk by, all aspects of the industry walk by, and literally every organization's there, every type of person is there. And I'll say it this, 90+% of the people there are amazing people. And then you have 3% that aren't so great. Yeah. So you get all aspects of the industry too. So, which is absolutely awesome, because you get to be reminded that all aspects of humanity are in this industry. So, so I love the fact, I love that story. I love, your mission there. It was over a year ago that I was on your podcast. I was thinking about that the other day, how long ago that was. And it's hard to believe it's been a year since we spoke about the podcast that you and Jeff do. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that podcast too?
Yeah, it's called Empowering Women into Logistics. Jeff had reached out to me last year. It's been, I think, over a year now, and asked me if I'd be willing to co-host with him, because he has a daughter, but he just feels that there's a need to talk about this and continue to empower women into logistics. There wasn't a lot of women in this industry, way back then, and there's a lot more now, not enough, but, we need some more women, I think, getting into leadership. And part of it is not just women lifting women up, but men lifting women up as well, and talking about some of those struggles that we have had. Some people don't necessarily have struggles, whether it's companies doing the right thing or not, but I want people to have a voice, to be able to speak about it and talk about it, because I think the more you talk about it too, it's going to help bring more women into the industry as well. I think that's necessary, and it makes a good dynamic for your business in general. And there's a lot of great opportunities for women in logistics all the way around. I think sometimes when people think about it, they think of just trucking. And yes, there's women truck drivers and mechanics and things like that, but there's a lot of other opportunities, especially now too, with tech being, such a force in the industry, or in the world in particular, but, Jeff and I, we had gotten some sponsors on the podcast, and we did collect money, and we actually, awarded actual Danielle.
Yep.
And she
Danielle Spinelli, right?
Yep. And she's the first award winner for this. And I think it's important to continue to raise awareness and do all that. Like when I was younger in the industry and I started winning awards and whatnot, like part of my mentorship is giving them a list of all the awards I got and how you know, work towards getting them. Just knowing what to do to kind of build your brand. And so I think it's really important to do that. We get a lot of feedback from men and women on the show, and just want to continue to put the word out there.
No, I think the mission's amazing. Do you know what the demographics are right now for women in transportation and logistics?
I don't have the exact number, but I know it's like, I think below 30%, somewhere in that range.
Okay, which is substantially more than what it was when you and I first got into the industry.
Yeah. In leadership, it's a lot lower.
Right. So substantially lower. I think, and I can't recall the driver percentage, but that's substantially higher than what it once was too. So, but yeah, it was 5% or lower at one time, I think, if I recall, many years ago. So it is a generational thing, and it's taken a long time to get where it's at, but it is a good change. And you know, if I look back, we've had a substantial number of women on driving forward, and I'm curious what our percentage is. I'm going to go back and look. So, well, some amazing women on over the last year and a half. So and with amazing stories. So, but yeah. So love the mission. Love that you're running forward with that, and love that you're continuing the podcast. You guys are over a year into it now, and it continues moving. So that's beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of women and men to highlight out there.
Yes. So looking ahead, what legacy do you hope to leave in the logistics industry, and how do you want your journey and achievements to inspire future generations of leaders, especially women?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just it. Like, I want the legacy to be that you can come into this industry, whether you have a degree or not, because I'm very passionate about that. Like, I did quit college. It doesn't mean I didn't take classes afterwards and done some of that stuff, but I think you can do anything you put your mind to. You just got to put the effort in. You know, I had a hustle mentality, and that's what I did. And I figured it out, and I researched stuff. And, you know, I think, you know, the legacy of someone who had that background and built a business like this. And yes, I had an opportunity with my father, but I had to do the job. You know, that's something that I do want to make clear out there too, because some people do get put in roles in family that really shouldn't be in that role. And, you know, at the end of the day, I didn't even ask for this role. My dad did just put me in the role, but I also had to execute and do the job, or we wouldn't be here today. And so I think it's important for anyone out there to understand that, you know, you can put, you know, your mind to this and you're able to accomplish great things. And I think as far as, you know, for aspiring women out there, again, I think part of more women coming into this industry and pushing yourself into these type of leadership roles, they need to see women doing this in the role too, and hoping that, you know, I do inspire people to say, I can do that. How can I get there? What do I need to do? And just continue to push themselves forward, because I think people need someone to look up to, no matter whether it's a man or a woman or multiple people. So being a person that people can look up to, that you can try to help them even get there, or maybe seeing some of the podcasts or the accomplishments that it pushes them to do more. So
that's perfect. So that's a heck of a legacy to go towards. So if you can, I think, to be honest with you, you've probably already achieved it. So
clearly on the way for sure. Yeah.
Just keep doing more of it. So keep doing more of it. So where can people find you? I guess we're gonna start wrapping this one up.
Sure. We have our website at Knichel-Logistics.com, and then I'm on LinkedIn. That's the only social media that I'm actively on. So you can find me on there. And then, of course, if you're in Pittsburgh, we're here in Pittsburgh. So
Perfect. And you're going to be at a few shows coming up here soon too, or?
Yep, I'll be at the TIA next week. I'm speaking there on intermodal, doing a couple of podcasts and things there as well. And then I'll be at the BCS event in Indianapolis that you were promoting as well. I'm also on the Women in Logistics Committee board over there, so have some exciting stuff with that, and have some Women in Logistics events and mixers that we have going on. So
At BCS, there's mixers and whatnot.
yeah, we're gonna have an event. I think it's maybe Tuesday night. I'm gonna have to double check that. But
Melanie's running or is part of that too, right? Melanie Patterson. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow,
great. She's part of it. So super excited because we got a lot of women interested. And to be quite honest, that's the one event I think I've seen the most women at of all the events I go to.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, I know TIA's gotten a little bit more too, but like there was a significant amount of women at that event, and we got a lot of women that want to sign up and kind of work with us, and so excited.
So in Fort Worth, I mean, I don't know how many were there, but the amount of women at BCS was substantial.
Yeah.
I don't know what the ratio was, but it was not 30%. It was a lot more. So
yeah.
It was a lot more. It had to be close to 50. So it had to be.
Yeah, I was absolutely shocked, to be quite honest. I was shocked, right? But I was like, this is great, you know? So yeah, super excited for that. And after that, I don't know what else I have coming up anytime soon. Things just happen to pop up, but.
And you do have a panel that you're on too, right? At BCS also?
Yep, I will be on a panel about change management in tech. So,
gotcha.
Yes.
Well, that sounds like it's right up my alley too. So
it does sound like it's up your alley. I'm the only broker on the panel. All the other ones are tech.
So. Yeah. I'm doing a panel, or I'm leading a panel on leadership and management, which we haven't got a title to yet, but it'll have a few very interesting folks on it. So we're cool. One of which is Will Jenkins. So
he's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're finalizing the other folks on the panel right now, but we should have that done shortly. So
awesome.
But, well, Christy, I appreciate you coming on the show. The hour went by extremely fast. Looking forward to chatting with you here in a couple weeks in Indianapolis. Anything else in closing?
The only thing I'll say is just keep pushing forward. Don't forget to ask questions, and you can do it.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, you're welcome to hang around. We can chat after, or I will catch up with you as soon as possible. So
awesome.
Appreciate you. The freight we move is just part of the story. What really drives this industry forward is resilience. It's the long nights, the quiet sacrifices, the unshakable belief that what we do matters. Today, we didn't just talk logistics. We talked about the people behind the progress, the stories that often go untold, but are the backbone of everything we build. So, wherever this episode finds you, on the road, in the office, or between stops, remember, we're all part of something bigger. And we're just getting started. We'll see you next week, right here, where we keep showing up, keep digging deeper, and keep driving forward. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible. Until next time, drive forward with purpose and innovation. Thanks for watching.